Scrum Master. I'm Stephanie Cully, and this is the show where we talk about your Agile problems and I give you my best advice. A little bit of an introduction about myself. I'm Stephanie, and I'm the founder of Scrum Life Consulting. I created a company that way I can help other people who want to become Scrum Masters land their dream job. I do this through a one-on-one program and also through my Scrum Immersion program with live experience for new Scrum Masters. Today's question comes from Sam from Atlanta, Georgia. She writes, Dear Scrum Master, I just started as a new Scrum Master and I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. I feel a bit like an imposter. I know they hired me for a reason, but a lot of people are way more technical than me, and I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed in my new role. Do you have any tips for me as a new Scrum Master? Well, Sam, this is a really great question, and this is something that I get from a lot of new Scrum Masters, and I experienced this myself as well. It can be really intimidating, especially as a new Scrum Master, when you see that other people are more technical than you, or maybe they understand the business more than you because they've been at the company for a while. So this is totally normal. I hope that makes you feel a little bit better, as we all go through imposter syndrome at some point in our lives, and it is a little bit nerve-wracking when you first start a new job. The tips that I have for you here would be maybe try not to focus so much on the technical aspect. Definitely spend time learning about the business and spend some time asking questions. Maybe your team is using, AWS, Amazon Warehouse Services, and that's something that you want to understand a little bit at a high level, and understand what some of the buzzwords are that they're using. But by no means do you have to go and understand how to become a developer. So you were hired as a Scrum Master for a reason. That's completely right. And as a Scrum Master, your job is not to develop or create any code. You are there as a servant leader. And when I say that, I mean you're there to help the team understand the Scrum framework so that they can reach their goals. You're also there, so basically you're there to help teach them, to guide them. A really great Scrum Master is there to help them build their skills and be successful on their project. So you're not there to try to make sure that they're just getting their work done. You're not there as someone who's in command and control, get this work done. You're there kind of as a coach, a mentor, and you're there especially to help remove blockers. And when I say that, when we say removing blockers or impediments, one of the biggest things or one of the biggest challenges that you'll deal with as a Scrum Master is making sure that there's a little bit of a balance and that they're not getting distracted. So they may get distracted by things like, say, the product owner. Sorry, it always seems like the product owner gets blamed in the first situation, but it's very common that a product owner may try to not purposely disrupt the flow of work, but your team has already started. They have already started to work on the sprints, and it could be typical for the product owner to either go up to the developer and ask them to work on something else, or cause some type of a disruption. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the product owner. There could be something else. But as a great Scrum Master, you're there to help remove those distractions or make it easier for them to get their work done. If they don't understand or they're not following some of the processes, you're there not to just command and control, but things like the sprint planning. The team is there to try to figure out what is the plan of action for, say, a 2-week sprint, and talk about some of the blockers that may come up. So it's really important if things are happening like the people are not participating in the events, to make sure that they understand the how and why. So I know that was a bit of a long-winded answer, but I hope that gives you a little bit more perspective on the things that you should be focusing on, not so much worrying about all of the technical aspects. You'll definitely learn those as you go, and I encourage you to have that technical curiosity to make sure that you're learning along the way. That way you can speak a little bit better to some of the questions or blockers that come up within your project. So, congratulations on the new role and good luck. I hope you're able to easily overcome imposter syndrome or any of the doubts. They've definitely hired you for a reason, and you're going to do a fabulous job. Now, our last question comes from Abe, and Abe is from Delaware. He said, I'm interested in becoming a Scrum Master, but I'm not quite sure where to start. I've just heard a lot about how being a Scrum Master is a really great role, and I'm starting to look at things on Instagram and watch some YouTube videos to understand a little bit more about the role. So, Abe, those are some really great ways to get started. What I always recommend is, as a new Scrum Master, to go to scrumguides.org. Scrumguides.org is really the official place where you would look for all of the information about the framework. You can understand the different roles. You can understand the events and why they take place. It also talks about some really important parts such as empiricism. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Empiricism and why that's important. So for those of you who don't know about empiricism, it's basically learning through, or I guess my own way of explaining it is it's learning through experience. So maybe you're starting off with a new technology or you're not exactly sure what you're doing in the beginning. Things are going to get easier over time, and you're taking an empirical approach in order to learn that. So Scrum is really based off of that. There's, obviously a lot more to it. That's just one point of Scrum. But once you start understanding some of the theory about Scrum, you can also start getting into other aspects in order to become a Scrum Master, which could include things like networking. A lot of Scrum Masters that I've spoken with have found some success through networking in events such as attending meetup groups. The really great thing about Meetup right now is I feel like it's accessible to everyone, no matter the location, because most things are virtual. Now, if you're trying to attend something that's in another country, in a different time zone, you may have to wake up early or stay up late. But there should be some type of meetup in whatever country you live in that's related to Agile. And you can network with other people to find out what they did to become a Scrum Master, learn from them, and also find out about job opportunities. Some other ways that I really love for people to try to get more experience as a Scrum Master is just taking initiative by creating their own projects. So for me, when I first started out, I try to use things like, let's pretend that either I was going on a vacation or I could pretend that I'm going on a vacation and create either a Kanban or a Scrum board. So hopefully, when I say Scrumban or Kanban board, all of you know what I'm talking about. It's the board that has to do, in progress, and done as some of the basic columns, and that you move them across the board. So starting off with something like that, creating a project, and it's really great if you can get other people involved. So to get more of the Scrum experience, it's more than just you working on a project. So an even better way to do this would be to get other people involved. If you do something like chores within your house, you can get other family members to work on that as a project, or using a Kanban board where there's not a specific start and end time to your so-called project. And lastly would be something like a volunteer experience. I used to actually volunteer for Microsoft had something called Microsoft Give Camp, and my company at the time helped to organize this event. And you could also volunteer as someone like a developer, a project manager, or a UX designer. So I usually would try to volunteer as a project manager. And this is where you can get creative with things. Just because you don't have the official title of Scrum Master doesn't mean that you can't be a Scrum Master. So at the time, I would say Waterfall was probably more popular at some of these companies, whether it was, maybe technology companies were more agile than non-tech companies. And so it's like, how can I use this to get more agile experience? And I worked as a Scrum Master with other developers and took the approach of what a Scrum Master would do during this, it was Give Camp, but it was basically a 2 or 3 day hackathon. So try to get creative. You can create your own project. You can go out and find if there is something like a charitable event where they have an event coming up and they have several people working on it. Volunteer, and then you can be their Scrum Master. You are the overall organizer or project manager, but you can do the things that a Scrum Master would do to help yourself get that experience. So I hope this was a helpful example. Good luck on your journey to become a Scrum Master, and I really appreciate the questions. Thank you so much for the questions. If you have any specific questions you would like me to ask on our show, Dear Scrum Master, go ahead and add a comment below. And if you liked this, please go ahead and subscribe. I hope you guys found this enjoyable and have a great day.